I have thoughts, feelings, and opinions that are probably best kept to myself. I feel like you've had a sort of bad week for these little paper cuts. You've been moaning about WhatsApp like the whole week.
Right. Do you want to do this then? We want to do this at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, do it. It's happening now. just keep it under like 10 minutes and we're fine.
WhatsApp replaces the characters : close bracket or close parentheses with the emoji of a smiley face. Now, this may not bother many of you. In fact, it may be what most people want to happen, but it does my head in. It really annoys me every time it happens. And normally, like if you hit backspace, it will undo the replacement and then it's fine. I often forget if I'm doing like an emoji on the end of a text and I just, I type the text and hit enter and then it's gone and it's replaced the emoji. And this week, I will stand for it no more. And as you've spotted, Ryan, I've started deleting messages where this has happened and resending them corrected because...
Often quite lengthy messages as well, just ruined by one thing.
One thing on the end. It's honestly, it's disrespectful to the things that I'm writing that Facebook think that they can just replace arbitrary sections of that text with something else. It honestly, it bothers me on principle. Like, I know that the modern thing to do is emoji, and so they think they're being helpful by replacing that text with emoji and stuff, but it's not what I wrote. They're not sending the things that I've typed, and I want them to send the thing that I typed.
This is just one very short step away from them replacing everything you say with fascist propaganda.
You're exactly right.
You'll be there just telling someone how much you like pizza, and suddenly it's Stalin. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
We must not stand for it. This is the time to make our stand.
Oh, it is just annoying because there's also differences between things. I don't know how the replacement works and stuff. I don't know the full scope of what it replaces and what it doesn't. But let me do a live test. Let me fire up WhatsApp. Bear with.
The phrase "fire up WhatsApp" has triggered some fantastic mental images in my brain of a steam-powered phone.
Yeah. Right. So it didn't replace that. But it does replace that. Why does it replace that? It's terrible. What happens if I do a space? No.
Oh, you're actually sending these things to me? Okay.
You're getting all my experimentation. Because
wait. It doesn't replace. So if you just do : close rounded bracket.
It doesn't replace it, no.
Which is what I think most people lazily do for that symbol.
That's the one that I want to send, and I have to take manual action to replace it with the dash in the middle.
You realise, by the way, that you're now forcing me to screenshot this for show notes, right? Or else it makes no sense.
You're welcome. So if I do them backwards, it's fine. I don't know. It just bothers me. It's a messaging platform. It should send the characters that I wrote as I wrote them and not replace them. Other messaging platforms do this as well, and it annoys me in different ways. Like Slack does it a lot as well, and it does it in what I would argue more insidious ways because it's less obvious when it's done it. If you're familiar with ligatures in font, are you?
Oh, I really should remember what that word means.
So in typesetting, to make things sort of a bit more pleasing and is in principle a bit more legible, some letters are joined up as a single glyph, and it's often called a ligature. So one of the common ones is the letter F followed by the letter I. Will often be joined into a single glyph. If you do typesetting with something like Helvetica, I think it does that. There are and before fonts were clever enough to sort of do that themselves, right? I'm going to try really hard not to go too deep into this. There are numerous ways to do this. You can do fonts that support ligatures as a feature, which means if you type FI, it joins them graphically, but they're still two separate characters as far as the computer is concerned. Whereas before fancy fonts like that, for printing and stuff, they were separate characters that were the glyph FI, but they were a single character. And I believe Slack replaces the characters FI with a single character for the combined glyph, the ligature for FI. And it's difficult to spot that they've done that because it's hard to tell. Have they replaced characters, or is it just a drawing thing, just a graphical thing only? And graphical thing only I can cope with, but I'm pretty sure Slack actually just replaced the characters outright, and it bothers me that they do that as well, because again, they're not sending the characters that I typed, they're sending something else that they think is what I mean. I'm like, no, just send what I wrote.
So in what situation would that change the meaning of what you've said?
That is not the point. It is the principle of the matter that bothers me.
It's not about the glyph, it's about sending a message.
Exactly. It's exactly about sending a message.
Oh dear. Right, is this another case where I've indulged your nerdery early and we can just move on now?
We can move on if you want. I mean, I could complain for a long time about these things, but I won't.
I mean, I'm planning to complain, so it's only fair that you've had your chance. Have you watched the BattleBots Top 10 Moments of 2019 video that I sent you?
I watched. How much of it do you think I watched?
I think you didn't get to number 8.
I mean, that is accurate. I did not get to number 8. I'm not even sure I got through 10, to be honest.
That's okay, because I'm going to talk at you regardless.
Okay, I mean, I can watch it now if you're willing to wait 5 minutes.
No. I'm going to talk you through it.
Okay. I won't get to do my homework last minute. You're gonna call me out for having not done it.
Oh yeah, I want everyone to know that you lack commitment, and then proceed in a way where it wouldn't have mattered anyway. So, problem number 1 with this. This was released early to supporters, or alternatively, if you wanted, you could go and watch it on TikTok for free. Yay.
TikTok.
I would honestly not be surprised if more people who read that message that BattleBot sent about that paid to become a supporter than went and watched it for free on TikTok. Because TikTok is disgusting and no one should go there. That's issue number 1. That is, however, a small complaint.
TikTok is the small complaint here.
Yeah.
What could the big complaint possibly be if TikTok is the small one?
So this was BattleBots' top 10 moments of the 2019 season. I'm going to talk you through them. I want you to keep count of how many of them you would classify as moments.
Okay.
So number 10, Duck beats Bombshell. Number 9, Deep Six breaks the test box. Number 8, there were some Chinese teams. Number 7, free shipping existing. Number 6, there were a lot of big hits. Number 5, Black Dragon wins a Desperado. Number 4, Rotator beats Tombstone. Number 3, Hydra did really well. Number 2, Minotaur started badly but was good. And number 1, 3 4-wheel drive verts went undefeated. Now I'll admit, there may have been some clues in my tone, but what was your count there?
I got 4 moments and 6 things.
I got 3 moments.
3 moments?
I'm not counting Black Dragon winning the Desperado as a moment.
Okay, that'd be the one that we disagree on then, yeah.
In the video, they contextualised it by showing multiple parts of multiple Desperado matches they had. So it's like they could have had a moment there, but they just pivoted last minute. It's the same with the Hydra one as well. They phrased it as though they were going to talk about the Bronco versus Hydra fight, but then they just went through all of Hydra's fights. That is just a shocking effort at a list.
Oh dear. I mean, listicles are never good, even if they're on YouTube.
Thing is, there are lists like this that other people have made, random people have made, which at least understand what a moment is.
Who would have thought that the fan base for something could do a better job of drawing out the highlights of a thing than the people making it? That's never happened before.
I do wonder if it's a question of whoever made this didn't really get the thing they were trying to make. Or was it, we need to show as many different robots as possible? Therefore, we're going to do lots of big hits because then we can show lots of clips of big hits from different robots.
Yeah, I mean, this is an exercise in marketing, isn't it? This isn't an exercise in let's remind the fans how great this show is. It's just like, let's try and reach more people.
And that's the thing that gets to me. It's not for us.
No.
It's never for us. Even the show at this point is not for us. As the sort of, I was going to say, as the big fans, as though that means anything. You know, BattleBots, and we've acknowledged this time and time again, it is not made for the core audience. It is made for the people channel hopping that see a fun-looking thing and watch some adverts.
We need a tournament made for podcasters.
What on earth would that look like? That'd probably be more of a mess. That's the problem.
I don't know. Maybe what you do is you do audio-only fights.
Oh, God, Extinguisher wins everything. Ugh. Ugh.
No, I kind of agree. Like, it is... well, I don't know if I agree about that for the whole of battle bots, but yeah, certainly this top 10 anything produced by the BattleBots production team just feels like this is not something that's sort of made for their audience. It's an exercise in marketing.
I'm still trying to think what my sort of ideal tournament looks like.
I know what your ideal tournament looks like.
Go on then.
And it looks like everything and nothing, because you'll be changing your mind about what it should look like during the tournament.
Ah, so Clash bots. No, I think for me, you won't have watched them, so this means nothing to you, but other people will understand what I mean. I think Norwalk Havoc is close. It's a live event in America for Beetleweights, which is kind of entertainment focused, but not in an obnoxious way. So they do 2-minute fights, which prevents, or at least shortens, a lot of cripple fights. But they have what they call an encore system, where if it's getting towards the end and the crowd want it to carry on, they add an extra minute, which I think is a nice touch. In terms of legitimate sporting competition, it's not perfect, but I think that's a nice compromise on fight length. They tend to have a really good range of good robots, essentially. You know, they attract a lot of top competitors in the Beetleweight scene by offering a prize, which is always helpful. And as live streams for events go, it's probably the best produced that you're going to find. They put some effort into at least making sure that they've got robot names up on screen and things like that. Because I assume that someone over there has some sort of production experience. So they have the skills to do that, so they do. And it comes out really well. Things I don't like, Arena is a plain box, and active weapon rule. So those two things just take away a little, but they're definitely going in the right direction for an entertaining competition that appeals both to hardcore fans and builders, and probably to casuals who just sort of stumble across it. Filthy casuals.
Filthy casuals.
And then the other side would be something like, I don't know what to call it, SXS this year. In terms of, that is a tournament where you had a mix of very good robots and kind of all-comers. So there was no selection process, it was whoever signed up, no active weapon rule or anything like that, which is a risk in terms of guaranteeing a good and diverse field, but it seems to generally work out. And from there, as an event, you've got Bob there doing commentary, which is sort of a big help in terms of sort of making it accessible to people. And you've got a selection of builders who are there to either be competitive or be entertaining, which means you don't get as many dull fights as you might if everyone there is super serious and not trying to take any more damage than they have to and just trying to get through. So I think a combination of those kind of approaches my perfect tournament.
Wow.
I feel like I said very little with a lot of words there.
Tournament organisers should get in touch, for a... You could start like a certification program, right? Where a tournament organizer can come to you for a week of training, and at the end of it, they get a certificate and a qualification that says they can host Ryan-approved Beetleweight tournaments.
I think we should go like the Michelin route, or the Michelin route when you're talking about the food, because it has to sound more posh than tyres. Where you have a set of inspectors whose identities are completely unknown, and they turn up unannounced incognito and then deliver a verdict afterwards. Because you don't want people, working out what the rubric is and just making it perfect for that one visit. You need them on their game 100% of the time. They need to be fearful and anxious of a potential visit at all times. That's how you guarantee quality. The education sector knows this. It's time for everyone else to catch up.
So this sounds familiar to me, and I'm not even a teacher.
It's the perfect system, and no one could possibly disagree. We'll have league tables of competitions.
Oh dear, I'm on the other side of that stress second-hand, and it's terrible even then.
For what it's worth, I have worked to come up with an actual top 10 moments that everyone will disagree with anyway, but at least they're bloody moments.
Okay.
I don't know if you'd like to hear it or not. I feel like I'm kind of forcing your hand at this point.
I could say no, couldn't I? I could say keep that to yourself, and then, I'd be the bad guy of the podcast, and we can't have that. So please, Ryan, share with us your top 10 moments.
I could just put it in the show notes, and we'll see who goes to the show notes.
That's a challenge.
But we're clearly not going to do that. I would say feel free to chip in with your own opinions, but I know your memory of these things probably doesn't make that very likely.
I have no comment on the matter.
So, number 10, I've tried to pander to some of the things they put in and just worded them better. So for number 10, all Brazilian Desperado final. That was a nice little thing. We wanted that match to happen anyway. It was good that it came up organically.
Yeah, but is that a moment, though? Like, how long can a moment be?
So of course I have a definition in place. My definition is that it has to be distilled into something within the scale of a single fight. So either a moment within a fight or a whole fight. Anything bigger than that, no. So if I said the whole Desperado tournament leading to an All Brazil final, that'd be dodgy. But having that final, I'd say that's a good moment. In fact, I would argue that the moment there happens before the fight where we know the results of the two semi-finals.
Okay. So it's on the moment when the finals are announced is the moment we're talking about. That moment there.
Yeah, everything after that, take or leave.
Yeah, irrelevant in this context.
Yeah, it doesn't matter that it was also a good fight that went to the judges.
No, who wants that?
I mean, certainly not the judges. All they want probably is an easy life where no one's going to tell them they're wrong.
Yeah.
So that was number 10. Number 9, I've got Shatter brutalising Wanhu, because that was amazing. For number 8, I've gone much more specific. Broncos flipper breaking against free shipping.
Okay. For
number 7, Gruff taking Tombstone to the judges. That is not, by the way, just the 3-minute mark of the fight. That is the whole fight.
That's longer than a moment, though. 3 minutes is definitely longer than a moment.
It's an extended moment. Okay, what time scale do you think I should be working within?
Well, I don't know, but like if someone says, "Oh, a moment," I don't know. Like I'm thinking on the order of seconds.
If someone says, "Give me a moment," how long are you giving them?
Well, being the polite, reasonable person that I try to be, I would give them however long it was they actually needed without complaining, unless it was hours. But like, I don't know. Like if someone says, "Give me a moment," and I'm trying to be reasonable and like accommodating of someone, a few minutes, but I don't know. Moments for me are very short. Like I said, they're on the order of seconds. Maybe tens of seconds at a max.
There's a very strong urge within me to go, give me a moment, and then not come back for about 3.5 minutes and see how you react.
Well, you can do that.
But I've ruined that now. But it wouldn't work now, would it?
I'm not gonna leave that in the show though.
Put it this way: last time you needed a moment, and it was a lot bloody longer than 3.5 minutes. So I'm counting this.
Did I describe that as a moment?
I would describe it as a moment.
Did I say...
Just let me get through my list and then we can get on to what we're actually meant to be doing.
No, we must define these things. It's the whole root of the show is defining things that don't need defining.
For the purposes of my list, I'm saying, as I said, within the scale of a fight.
Okay.
I think is fair. You know, if we're going to break things down into units, a fight is the unit you would use for BattleBots.
No, you'd break it down into units of big hits there.
Every single interaction between two robots is its own defined moment.
Yeah.
To be fair, most of the others I've got are like that.
Okay. You can carry on. I'm sorry for derailing you. Please continue with your top 10 moments of BattleBots 2019.
For 6, I've got Cobalt ripping Duck's face off. Definite moment. 5, Hypershock's absolutely perfect box rush against Valkyrie.
Oh.
For 4, I've doubled up on Hypershock here. That's poor form. I've got Hypershock eating its own rake. For 3, you're going to say this is a collection of 2 or 3 moments, and I'll allow it. Hydra breaking Warhawk into 3 pieces.
Oh, you can't call that one moment. Shocking.
Hydra breaking Warhawk into its 3rd piece.
See, that's a moment. That's a moment.
Actually, you'd probably go with the initial breaking into 2, but whatever. For number 2, Cobalt completely breaking physics against Minotaur and flinging itself almost into the ceiling.
Almost into the ceiling.
It's the best way to hit the ceiling is to almost hit it. Everyone knows that.
Almost hit it. come within millimetres of it, but not actually.
That's where the real skill is. Anyone could just hit the ceiling, but getting close, sneaking up on it, that takes some nuance, you know.
Maybe they were doing like a real life demonstration of that philosophical thought experiment where they're just constantly halving their distance to the ceiling. They never quite get there.
They got to within 1 Bite Force wedgelet. The smallest distance known to man. And then finally for number 1, Rotator beating Tombstone. I don't necessarily agree with my order, but I did feel that kind of had to come top. I think that's what most people would put top if we're limiting things to a one-fight scale. Or they might do Tombstone ripping its own wheel off.
How have you written an order that you don't agree with?
Because putting things in an order is really difficult. Like, most of these, to me, are basically equal. Then there's all the ones I had to reject because I came up with more than 10. Many of which could also just as easily have been on there.
What a hard life you lead.
This is where the pain of coming up with the top 10 list should lie. Selecting and ordering. It shouldn't come in knowing what a bloody moment is.
You'd have been happier then if they had a top 10 moments that had more than 10 moments in it. But they were all actually moments, So they had a top 10, but then started at 12.
I mean, they could go Watch Mojo style and do some honourable mentions. I'm doing some honourable mentions. Son of Waiachi, Utering Copperhead. That was amazing. Death Roll pinballing around against Endgame without its weapon breaking. And Blacksmith beating Rotator to make the top 16. They were my rejected 3.
So you had a top 10 with 13 items.
I had a top 10 with 3 honourable mentions, and you know it. This is an established method of doing a top 10.
I think you might enjoy the podcast Top 4, where they rank, the top 4 within a certain thing, but Marco especially can just never actually only have 4. Like, he's always got a ridiculous number of honourable mentions, often joint firsts, joint seconds. You'd love it.
I know I said this to you already in a normal, non-recorded conversation, but I do want to direct people back to Robot or Not as a podcast. It used to be deciding whether a particular example of a thing counted as a robot, but they appear to have now run out of robots, and they're just defining stuff, and it's brilliant.
They ran out of robots ages ago. They just define all kinds of weird stuff now.
Anyone who unironically enjoys us trying to define things, and the pedantry that it involves, will enjoy the newer episodes of Robot or Not. 100%. It's how I imagine listening to me sounds and feels, but way more American.
Yeah. Seconded. Link in the show notes.
I mean, you already know what it sounds like to listen to me.
I do. Not sure you're quite as frustrating to listen to as John Siracusa is sometimes, but, same kind of feeling, I
He's
guess.
way more eloquent and probably more consistent.
Probably.
Right, we're putting off the inevitable here, aren't we? Or was there more follow-up? Did anybody tell us we were wrong on Reddit? I'm going to check if anyone told us we were wrong on Reddit, because they probably did.
I mean, of course people told us we were wrong. We got told we were wrong on Reddit and Twitter and everywhere else. Like, yes, we got things wrong.
I still haven't actually checked Twitter, because Twitter is awful, I've now decided.
I refuse to address the situations where we were wrong. We clarified last time that we would continue to be wrong about things, and yet people continue to send corrections.
And I appreciate them doing that.
I admire their commitment to the cause.
The one big thing, 2 big things that came up. One, I really tried to find the image I was thinking of from Bronco Chromefly and just couldn't, so I don't know if I made it up or it's just really hard to find. The other one is there was actually another Bucktooth Burl fight that I didn't include in my notes because it didn't meet the criteria for being judged in Retunti that I can't quite remember. I think it was sort of fully untelevised, so we didn't talk about it, where the weapon did work pretty well, and they were able to drive semi-consistently.
So I was right then? Is that what we're saying here? That I was right about Bucktooth Burl, and you insisted that we discount it?
Yes, potentially. I think we still came up with the right winner, so it's fine.
It's fun to claim that I was right, though.
I mean, I know you have to cling on to the very rare events, so I'm not going to take those away from you.
Ooh, brutal.
Anyway, whose turn is it to introduce a fight?
Oh, I don't know.
Let's say it's yours then.
Oh, okay. I was going to, because I feel like I started off last time, so I was going to see if you wanted to start off for this one.
You see, I think you did 3 of them last time, and I want you to do 3 of them this time as well.
This is the last batch, isn't it, of the groups of 3?
Yes, we got 5 more of them, I think.
5? Where did the 5th one come from? I thought we only had 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. 4 groups of 3.
Oh yeah, because we decided to do an extra one last time, so we'd have fewer to do this time, so that it wouldn't break us psychologically.
Yeah, but in the edit, I removed that decision moment, so it just sounded like we always intended to do however many it was we did last time.
Well, now they know. They know.
Now they know. They know.
Meanwhile, in a parallel universe where they know.
I get that reference.
I'm glad. So, Thermidor 2 versus Chompalot versus Sub-Zero.
What kind of enthusiasm was that?
We abandoned enthusiasm. We went chill. And we need to have a starting point if we're going to increase.
Okay, right then.
Thermidor 2. Obviously just reboot Thermidor, so there's no need to version on it.
They've done the versioning for us.
Although I have included its old school record just to give us more to talk about, because otherwise it's just one fight in Series 8 where it broke down.
That's all we need. That's all we need to know about Thermidor 2. It lost its only fight, and therefore we can immediately discount it from any competition.
If you lose one fight, you will never win another fight. That's how it works.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what we established last time.
You see, normally I'd agree that this would be the one that we're discounting, but we do have Chompalot in here as well, so...
Yeah, that's one more fights than Thermidor.
This is where you have to question. First of all, it was against Thermidor 2, so I suppose that gives us a bit more to go on, but you do have to question whether surviving a four-way melee should count as a win. Especially when one of the robots that you quote-unquote beat was Pulsar.
Poor Pulsar. I mean, you've got it written down as a win, and, you know, this is... It's officially a win on their record. And, you know, we couldn't possibly diminish that. We couldn't decide that because it was a win or a loss against a particular robot, that therefore it counts for less. That would be unreasonable of us. So we must consider this a whole win.
Should we then consider their one loss as more than one loss, considering it essentially retired the robot?
Since when did retiring the robot count for anything here?
I mean, has this even come up before? Actually, we must have done Rapid and Frostbite, so yeah, it would have.
How would Gabriel retire a robot?
By being a genuinely powerful weapon that's severely underrated by many, including historically myself.
What did it do?
Do you not remember the Chompalot Gabriel fight?
Do I remember that? Of course I don't remember it. Why on earth would I remember it?
To be fair, I think some damage may have been done by Shunt. I don't remember the full details, but Chompalot essentially burned to the ground at the end of the fight.
Yeah, that would retire a robot.
The second robot that Gabriel has retired, although admittedly the whole Eric live event thing was set up just to be funny.
You're not going to tell me that robot combat is like wrestling, are you?
The good wrestling or the bad wrestling? Because it's a yes either way.
The wrestling where the outcome is predetermined.
Pro wrestling is a legitimate sporting competition in exactly the same way that BattleBots is.
I'm not trying to poo all over wrestling here. I have an enormous amount of respect for the people that do it.
Why? Why do you? Wrestling is the worst thing.
It's incredible what they do. I don't care that it's fake and scripted and stuff. Like, the athletics involved in that is phenomenal.
It is impressive, but it should not be presented like a sport.
You're going to get all elitist on what counts as a sport now, are you?
Wrestling being fake is the main thing that people use as their reason for thinking that stuff in BattleBots or Robot Wars is set up and faked. Because there is a precedent set for something that is not a competition being presented as a competition.
Well, I mean, for all we know, BattleBots is scripted. We don't know. We've never been there.
Or have we?
Okay, I've never been there. I don't know about you. Have you been there with like a cardboard cutout of me or something?
I mean, I don't travel without it.
It's concerning.
No, I mean, I've even seen people trying to claim that things in BuggleBots were set up.
See, that definitely wasn't scripted. We can say that like with complete honesty and sincerity, unless they just assumed, like, they didn't bother to include us in the script, maybe because they just assumed we'd lose.
Or they intentionally hid it from us, knowing that we would blow the whistle.
But no, as far as we were aware, BuggleBots not at all scripted.
No, I have genuinely seen a couple of Reddit comments from, frankly, insane people who have used the fact that the Berg team have a sort of hammed up personality and like to have fun on camera. Apparently that is evidence that the whole thing is scripted, including the fights.
That is such a load of rubbish.
I mean, good luck scripting the first Daedalus versus Thunderchild fight. Yeah. Cosmin, take a dive over the wall. Yeah. You can do that, right?
God, it's hard enough to sort of drive a robot in a straight line, let alone actually intentionally fling it out of the arena like that. Like, it's hard doing that with a weapon that's designed to do it.
I may have gone through the entire 2019 series of BuggleBots yesterday, looking at all of the ways that robots got knocked out. And there were only 3 Ooters in the whole competition, and one of them was half of a multibot.
So 2.5 out of the arenas then.
Essentially, yeah. And also, one of those was in a whiteboard.
I mean, does that even count? Are the whiteboards scripted?
I mean, that is the one place that it would be reasonable to suggest that if you were going to, but still no.
Yeah, none of it's scripted. We have gotten a long way from talking about Chomp-A-Lot.
I mean, there's a reason for that. There's not a huge amount to say. It's a really neat-looking robot if you kind of cross your eyes a bit. But again, it falls into that Series 8 niche of who's got a robot that works, excellent, come on board.
Yeah, it works, you're in.
And what we have here in both Thermidor 2 and Chomp-A-Lot is 2 robots from the original run, which had who knows how much sort of preparation go into them for going up against robots like Ironside 3 and Pulsar, which have then gone up against Ironside 3 and Pulsar and probably been completely, they could have been lambs to the slaughter there, and they've both come out of it probably better than you would expect.
Yeah.
So I have respect for them in terms of just competing in that environment. It does not, however, mean that they're going to win this fight.
So we have Sub-Zero left to talk about.
And I'm going to go to great pains to mention that this is the old Sub-Zero, not the modern one. Wait, the older, not the moderner. Because there is an older Sub... It's the 2016 and 2018 because we're not doing 2019, and I need to remind myself of that or I'll make mistakes. There we go.
No 2019 here.
We're in the promised land of 2020 and it's going really well.
What a great year.
I still have something of a soft spot for the old Sub-Zero because everything about it is a bit stupid and it never really did what it was supposed to do, but it still ended up being a tank, and that meant that you could rely on it for a half-decent fight or better.
I don't know, I've never been particularly enamoured with Sub-Zero. It falls into that category again of a robot that feels like it should do quite well but never does.
I think in BattleBots, I'd never look at a flipper and say that should do well. And I especially wouldn't look at this flipper and say it looks like it should do well. Put this in earlier reboot Robot Wars, and yeah, I'd give it a chance of half doing something. But I think for BattleBots, it's not got a huge amount going for it except the durability, but that's not something you would assume it had just looking at it. Or were you not literally saying, looking at it, I've just thought that's a possibility too?
Well, like, it's not based on more than just the appearance of it, yeah. But it's hammed up, I guess, in the show. Like you feel like it should do well. Like it's reminiscent of Bronco, which is a good robot. So you think maybe this one should be good as well. They talk about it a lot. It's been in the competition a long time, so you sort of think, okay, right, they must be good. This must be a good robot that wins fights, and it doesn't.
You say reminiscent of Bronco. This is like the Chinese knockoff Bronco that I'm surprised we didn't get. We actually got a good Chinese knockoff Bronco. This is the standard I would have expected.
Ooh, harsh words.
Actually, no, I'll rephrase that. We had the KOB knockoff Bronco. This is the Clashbots knockoff Bronco.
So harsh.
But again, I'm saying this about a robot that I quite like because I always admire... Well, I say always. I have learned to admire durability. So it gets a thumbs up from me purely on that basis.
It's definitely going to need that durability in this fight. There's lots of highly damaging robots it's contending with now.
Oh, this fight is such a mess, isn't it? So let's be real here. Chomp-A-Lot is not grabbing either of these robots with the jaw that it has.
No.
Sub-Zero is completely the wrong shape for it, and Thermidor is largely the wrong shape. Maybe they might go claw to claw, and that's about all the control it's going to get. And this isn't a fight where being able to competently drive around is enough to save you. So in that respect, I would dismiss Chomp-A-Lot. But the fact it can self-right, and that you've got Thermidor in there with questionable reliability, makes me think it might last long enough to at least outlast that.
What happened in Thermidor's fight then?
Maybe in the spirit of being informed, we should quickly check that fight out. Since he's got both of them in, that seems like the right thing to do.
Okay. Do I have to go and try and find a fight now?
Well, I'm trying, but you might want to try as well.
was hoping I could just wait for you to find it and then send me a link.
Yeah, but bearing in mind that you heard me typing and it hasn't even gone into the address bar yet. So it was Heat 5 of Series 8, if that helps.
I've got a video here that claims to be all fights of Thermidor 2 in Series 5, 6 and 8.
I've got all fights of Ironside 3, which will start with this fight.
I've got it. I've got the fight. Have you got a fight?
I've got some of the page that the video is on. I have the video player and nothing else.
Oh dear.
Right, I now have the video. Shall we sync up our start points?
Okay.
We're just waving. We're waving the lasers. Right, I've paused just as the fight starts. So if you get to that point too, we will unpause together.
I'm at 2 minutes 58 in the fight.
Sakes.
I can go back a bit. Right.
Go back approximately 2 seconds, yeah.
Right then. Waving. 3, 2, 1. Fight. Or activate, whatever it is.
I was going to say, what robot fighting universe are you in here? As we watch this as well, it's worth just reminding ourselves that this will be in the Robot Wars arena, so remind yourself of what the arena looks like.
Yeah. I've also just muted it because I realise I'm screwing up our backup recording of you.
For what it's worth, I remember this fight being something like Thermidor 2 just breaking down. Although, to be fair, Chompalot has actually got a bit of a grab going on the claw, as I predicted.
It can grab it. Oh, there's Pulsar, finally.
Pulsar jaying its way around the arena there. Pioneer of social distancing. Yeah, so for me, unless I've missed something off camera, Thermidor 2 seems to have just kind of stopped of its own accord. It did have a little bit of a hit, although actually that wheel looks a bit wonky, so maybe Ironside got in there and we didn't see it.
Oh, mine's just suddenly cut very abruptly to a shot with everyone with Dara O'Brien, so...
Well, that's because it was no longer a fight with Thermidor 2 from there. I mean, Chompalot has survived some pretty big hits to the side from Ironside. It's lost a panel, but it's still driving okay. So it's some impressive durability just by virtue of air gap, I think, which is basically the Sub-Zero approach, to be fair. I'm going to go back and see if I can see how Thermidor died.
I will do no such thing because I have a rubbish video. I'm clearly incapable of finding high-quality versions of these fights.
I think something might have happened to it off camera, but it's kind of hard to tell. I'm going to call this reliability-based for now. In the absence of other evidence, I think we can happily say that there is potential for Thermidor 2 to crap out.
Okay. We can go with that.
Although I still feel like Chompalot is maybe the one to discount, just as the robot with no way of actively winning this fight. But at the same time, I don't think it will come last in this fight. I think it will come second.
Well, I've got the perfect plan. I know how to solve this. Let's discount all 3 of them and move on.
But then there'll be a hole in my spreadsheet. A robot-shaped hole.
There's a hole in my spreadsheet. Dear Liza.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. I don't know what to do. I kind of want to discount Thermidor because I think it's going to break down and it's only got one fight where it didn't do very well. Whereas, Chompalot did have 2 fights. Won one, lost one. Better record.
Survived one, lost one, yep.
Yep.
In many respects, if we're just looking purely at record, we should also be talking about discounting Sub-Zero at 1 and 4. But it just doesn't feel like a robot that's going to disappear from this fight.
I don't know. Losing against Ice Wave, Huge, Red Devil and Minotaur doesn't seem too bad.
No, and admittedly beating Captain Shredderator, it very much depends on the day whether that's impressive or not, but they did that by tanking enough hits for it to stop.
Yeah, there we go. They're a tank. Excellent. We are in agreement.
Are we happy, by the way, calling those 2 versions essentially the same, considering the frame and the flipper setup seems to be pretty much identical, just with a different tip on it?
Yeah.
The pivot seems to have been moved forward a little bit, but we'll allow it. Wide scoop or pointy spatula?
Pointy spatula, surely.
As much as I'd like the wide scoop, I think pointy spatula would probably be the choice, considering the pointy spatula-ness of both Thermidor 2 and Chompalot.
Yeah, you'd want to join in the spatula club.
This whole thing won't actually be a fight, they'll just be comparing spatulas.
The spatula comparing contest.
Measurements will be taken. It's going to be a wild ride for everyone involved. I still think we should be discounting Chompalot. My thoughts on it have become stronger since you said something different.
Fine. I don't care enough to argue.
Retunti in a nutshell, everybody.
Ah, dear.
So it's then a question of odds between Sub-Zero and Thermidor 2. I don't think it's 6 and 1.
Really? Problem is, once Thermidor's upside down, what can it do?
In principle, self-right.
Really? How does it do that?
With the flipper.
Does it open far? Does it open far enough to do that?
All it needs to do is give the robot enough of a kick to go over. It doesn't need to push all the way. That's the lifter life, that is. We'll make it 6 and 1 if you want. You compromised for me, I will compromise for you.
I don't know.
But I do it because I care.
We can go. What would you do in an ideal world if you could have everything that you wanted? How would you rank this?
I'd go 5-2 for Sub-Zero. But if you're thinking 6-1, we'll go 6-1.
I don't rate Thermidor 2. I'm sorry. It's just not. Can't possibly win this.
Maybe I'm just preempting comments saying that we've underrated Thermidor 2.
Oh, I'm sure I have. No doubt there. I'm sure I'm underrating it, but that's the way it goes.
It's a Series 8 robot. That's the thing. It's always gonna struggle in these things.
I want to go 1 and 6. That's what I feel.
And I will allow it.
Okay.
So it's 1 for Thermidor, the rest for Sub-Zero.
Are you ready?
Born ready.
Are you steady?
Born steady.
Are you go?
Born go.
It's a 3. Sub-Zero wins.
Excellent.
Excellent. Well done, Sub-Zero. I look forward to all the angry comments we shall get with that one.
I'm sure they'll involve pincers and pits. You get to introduce the next one now, and you're going to love every moment of it.
Oh dear. Right. What are we doing then? How are we doing these intros? What should it be?
I don't think there has to be a structure to this. I think you can decide. Let your heart decide what this intro should sound like.
I mean, it's just gonna be normal. I don't know. Other than I can do massively hyped or normal.
I think you should just introduce it calmly, but also factually incorrectly. So we've got an animal-themed fight here between Vulture, Fox, and Trolley Rage. And then just act like that's not wrong.
That's the intro. You've done it now.
Perfect. We'll take that.
High-level game strategy from Sam. Make Ryan introduce the robots when it's his turn to introduce them.
Just building up a debt now, aren't you?
Oh, no. I'll tell you what. I'll introduce robots when I have respect for the robots I'm introducing. How's that?
Oh, that might genuinely be the harshest thing you've ever said on here. Oh, dear. We'll start with Vulture. I don't think it'll be any surprise that I really like Vulture.
No, to be fair, Vulture is a very cool idea. I do like it.
It's a hammer saw.
Yeah.
Combining all the best features of the hammer and the saw.
I don't know. It's cool. It's different. I feel like it was much more different back then than it is now. It's still quite different, though. I feel like there's not a huge number of robots that have hammer saws.
I mean, I can't think of a heavyweight, at least, that did this before Vulture did.
Ooh.
We started having overhead saws, and this seemed like the next logical step. And as far as I can remember, and my memory might be flawed, they did kind of do it first for a heavyweight. I imagine Megatron was probably already around then.
You heard it here first. Ryan claims Vulture, world's first robot to do hammer saw.
The best thing is that if I'm wrong, I am probably taking the crown away from Jameson Go in exactly the same way that Rob did with Bourbon.
Yep. Poor Jameson Go. Jameson forgotten.
If you're going to be a trailblazer, you've got to make sure that you get yourself the credit. Otherwise, your efforts are wasted. You've got to put more time and energy into PR.
It's not like the Vulture team here paying us to say that they did it first or anything.
We're actually part of Big Vulture. We're on the payroll.
Oh, I wish.
No, I seriously love everything about this. I love the wedge design. I love the weapon. I love the colour scheme. Everything about it is just what I want to see. And it's just a shame that they didn't really get any matchups that allowed them to really show how this weapon could work. You know, they got Bucky the Robot, which has a lot of stuff on top getting in the way. They had Apex, which is supposed to have something getting in the way. And Terahertz, which has those sort of very steep angles that don't really give it a surface to really come down on. Although even in that fight, they did some damage, as I recall.
I will believe you.
That terahertz fight in general, the 1v1, not the three-way they had first where Apex was also in, is probably, for me, one of the more memorable fights of the reboot. Purely because we got to watch terahertz basically take chunks out of its own hammer when it came down on those plates on top and they kind of interlocked. That was a sort of subtle but awesome demonstration of the power of that weapon.
See, now you've said that, I do remember it. When you started this sentence saying this is a memorable thing, I was like, what on earth are you on about? I can't remember it. But I do, now you've said it, I do remember the weapon getting stuck on those plates there. Is it a top 10 moment, though?
I mean, is it even a moment?
Several moments.
So it's all of the top 10 moments. I mean, obviously, it's two robots I really like, so it's going to be more memorable anyway. I wouldn't objectively put it in a top 10. But for me, maybe. Who knows?
Okay.
I'm going to have to do that now, just for my own peace of mind.
I look forward to that being in the show notes.
No, it'll be follow-up next time. We'll give it the respect it deserves.
Okay. Does that mean I have to introduce it then?
Yes, with a great deal of enthusiasm. So that's Vulture, Trolley Rage. Now we'll do them in order. We have to do versioning here, that's the best part.
Foxic has a win? What? When did this happen?
Foxic, well, you've said these count as wins. Foxic survived
I regret my decisions. I'll tell you what, I know that I pick on Foxic a lot. It, like the newer one, the more angular one, does look incredible. Like that's such an amazing aesthetic for a robot.
I think we're definitely taking that one as the version, aren't we?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not like one is more effective than the other, is it?
I mean, technically, the original has the win on Robot Wars.
The win. Yeah.
You could also look back to some live event performances that version had at Robo Games as well, but I still don't think there's that much there that's going to change your mind, put it that way. I think I've tried that before.
I think you have, yeah.
I remember seeing the first version of, well, the Series 8 version of Foxic and thinking, wow, that is a really cool robot with an aesthetic that I love. And when you look at it side by side with the Series 9 version, you go, oh god, that looks awful. But that's just because the Series 9 version looks so good.
Yeah, the Series 9 one is a stunning piece of work, actually, like in what it looks like, I think. I do really like it. I do really like the aesthetic. I want to be really clear here. Not necessarily a massive fan of the robot, but the aesthetic of it. Beautiful.
For everything we've said about the performance of Danby machines, I would say he is one of the people that really drives forward a focus on aesthetics. Although they haven't necessarily done very much competitively, over the last few seasons of BattleBots, his have been among the best looking bots. Predator, I didn't like the look of purely because of the paint scheme and the colour scheme of the paint. But Foxtrot, for sure, one of the best looking machines there.
I'd love to, in this moment in the conversation, I'd love to be able to say that, you know, he's pushing forward the aesthetic of the robots without compromising on their functionality. I'd love to be able to say that, but I don't feel like I can. I mean, maybe he's not compromising on the functionality. We don't know.
The aesthetic isn't compromising on the functionality.
It shouldn't be, no.
I would argue that with the Series 9 version especially, quite a lot of the aesthetic that I love about it is a result of functionality with the wheel guards.
Yeah.
If anything, in that respect, the aesthetic emerges from the function. Obviously, there are other bits of flair that don't. And, you know, the extra sort of spiky bits on the lifter maybe act as catch points for whatever and so on, and it's not optimal, but damn it, I'd say that's worth it.
Yeah. I just wish it worked, man. I really wish it worked.
You could look at some of the losses as being less about the quality of the machine and more about the quality of the maintenance. So the self-writing issue that they had in, I don't quite remember what fight, was down to the weapon not being installed properly because it was done in a rush, which I would love to say is something we can use to kind of redeem the robot. But at the end of the day, if you don't maintain it, that's on you.
Well, the thing is as well, is one thing having an unlucky fight or having a fight where you were rushed and didn't quite put it together properly. Like, we've definitely done that.
Oh, yeah, our first fight at SXS is probably the worst example of that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It ate itself. Terrible. I have to every time you say SXS, I have to think about what on earth you mean by that. But yeah, like there's a pattern of behaviour here. No, that's unfair. There's a pattern of results here.
Yeah, a pattern of outcomes.
Pattern of outcomes, yeah.
And again, the first one showed its potential. It took Dead Metal for a ride across the arena in its first fight, in what was probably one of the most impressive things of Series 8, impressive things that we saw a competitor do. And I remember at that point thinking, this thing's going far. And then everything else happened, including the MR Speed Squared fight, which is still probably the worst fight of reboot times.
Poor Foxic. I feel like we should move on before we pull on it too much. I feel bad. I want Foxic to do well. I do. I love the way that machine looks. Genuinely do.
Trolley Rage, then.
Trolley Rage.
Now, we spoke last episode about live event performances and how difficult it was to account for them. Mm-hmm. In this case, I was able to just ask the builder for its live event record. So I asked them and I wrote it down. And then they came back to me a little while later going, oh, sorry, I got that a bit wrong. Here's the real number. And I didn't write that one down. So what I have on here is its competitive record in Robot Wars, which is just the one loss. And then the incorrect live circuit records.
Can you not go back and find that message? Or is it being buried?
I mean, I can try, but it might mean an awkward silence for you to edit.
That's fine. I can cope with that. I feel like you've gone to the effort of trying to find the correct answer here. We should honour that.
What would I even search for that was the phrasing I used in the conversation? Record? Oh, hang on. I did actually put the... Oh, no. So there were 3 figures given.
Oh, blimey.
The first was 2 and 4. The second was 2 and 3, which I wrote down. The final count came out at 2 and 5.
I'm glad that your evidence for being able to sort of like know this sometimes is so clear. You know, it's even easy for the builders to know what the competitive record of their own robot is. I shouldn't mock, because I'm not sure I could know the competitive record of any of our robots without sitting down and thinking about it for a while.
I was doing that just a couple of days ago. For the page you wanted to add to the website, I went through and added some stuff to that document that I'm not sure I actually ever shared with you.
Oh, you should share that with me.
I should, yeah.
I will put it. I will update the website one day.
So yeah, I have been going through and I do know the records of our robots, or at least I have them written down. But that's because we've only got like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I don't know how many robots we've got apparently, but I know their records, so there's that.
Right, so Trolley Rage on the live circuit, is that what, 2 wins?
2 wins, 5 losses, yeah.
Okay.
So it does have more wins than any other on this list, although I haven't included any live events for any of the others, so it's not
a fair comparison, no.
Just discount the live circuit.
Well, so my question was, so like, I remember that you telling me a long time ago that Foxic does well on the live circuit. Now, I feel like I've repeatedly asked for evidence of this and never quite seen it, so I'm not sure how true that is, but I don't know.
I've never been able to substantiate that claim.
No, okay.
That claim wasn't me knowing something, it was me repeating something I'd been told multiple times by what were potentially biased sources. Those Foxic apologists that I'm still kind of one of.
You being paid off by the Danbys, were you?
Yeah, I'm part of Big Fox. I'm just part of Big Animal in general, that's what it is.
I'm not sure that we can consider the live circuit too much here, because I think it unfairly biases it towards Trolley Rage if we haven't got similar stuff from the other robots.
That's fair. We'll do a BBC and pretend it never happened.
Excellent.
This is really hard. I don't know how to discount. I don't know how to discount. I'm not re-recording that line better.
Well, I don't think we should discount Vulture.
That is fair.
Now, the easy way out of this is just to discount Foxic because of the memes.
I mean, I don't know how well Trolley Rage self-writes.
No, but I don't know how well Foxic flips.
Well, yeah, exactly. How much evidence do we have of Foxic's lifter working reliably?
No, right, we've got to do this based on the best we've ever seen it perform, and I don't think I've ever seen Foxic's weapon work. No, wait, someone did send me a video once. I've seen it work in a video once.
I've seen it work. I'm not sure I've seen it flip effectively. Are we saying,
No,
by the
I
way,
don't think...
Series 9 Foxic, yeah?
Yeah.
The better looking, even if technically less successful version.
Unfortunately, yes. That'll annoy someone as well. I look forward to the feedback about that.
I mean, more modern, generally better.
So I can't think of any fight where we've seen Foxic's weapon work. Now, admittedly, I can't think of a fight where I remember Trolley Rage's weapon working, but then I can't really remember any fight with Trolley Rage in it. So
Trolley Rage got carbided at short notice. They had a setup for dealing with horizontals, but they were due to go into a fight where there were none. So they were set up not for that and got changed last minute. So they were victims of circumstance to a degree. You could look for a live event video of the weapon to judge its power.
I don't know. I don't know what to do with these two. I'm not sure which one to get rid of. I feel like I'm being unfair to both of them.
I have found a video of Trolley Rage, but to be honest, everything's so dark that I can't really tell what's going on. Also appears to not have its axe on, because it's just got a stick pointing out of the front. See, what I wanted to do was see if it had the power to self-right, which I feel like it must.
I was about to say there's no danger at all of it being flipped, but I guess there is the arena flipper, isn't
And
there?
whatever house robot is in, and the potential for Foxic to do the flippy thing.
I mean, technically, I suppose, but never seen it happen. I feel like I've got to discount Foxic because it just breaks down so often. Like, I feel like there are so many fights where it just goes in the arena not working.
I don't like it, but I don't disagree with it either.
Okay.
I think everyone saw this coming.
We're not doing this just for the memes. Not trying to be an arse here. Don't think you're going to win this fight, though. Sorry.
I am willing to go as far as saying 6-1 Vulture.
Okay, let's do it.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for Vulture, 7 for
Are you
Trolley
ready?
Rage.
Oh, it's a 5.
A nice, comfortable 5 that we don't have to explain. Right, you're introducing the next one, whether you like it or not.
I was going to try and do a stupid voice, but I feel like I'm just going to offend someone.
I mean, you've been doing one for the sort of 72 episodes so far, so...
Well, that's just harsh, that is. This is we're meant to be mean to robots, not each other.
Sorry, making fun of someone's voice is like the worst thing you can do. I'm sorry.
I can't change my voice.
Nor can I.
Bale Spear, Bucky the Robot, and Captain Shredderator.
Oh, that's now going to be really hard to edit into. You've made a mess for yourself there.
Just talk like this for an entire round.
It just sounds like an Oliver Twist parody.
Please, sir. Can I have some more?
No, Tombstone's not in this fight. Ha, brought it back on topic, sort of.
Huh. I see what you did there.
Right, Bale Spear.
Bale Spear.
You have to stop. I can't work under these conditions.
I cannot work under these conditions.
Now, what I find fascinating about Bale Spear is that I have a photo of it on this page to help you out because you don't know what robots are. And it has a wheel configuration that I'm sure we never actually saw it use. Where we've had to think about what weapon robots are going to use, Bale Spear, we actually have to consider what selection of their apparently infinite wheels they're going to put on the robot for this situation.
Well, I don't know what I don't know what the options are. What wheels do they have?
So they had the ones you can see on here, which are kind of like wheelbarrow wheels. They had some big, chunky, like off-road style wheels, which they sometimes ran as sort of 2 big ones at the front, 2 small ones at the back. Mm-hmm. They had random, like, sheet metal wheels at some point as well.
Got a really wide range of choices.
Oh, God.
I had to work really hard not to say really wide range.
Really wide range.
Really wide range of wheels.
Bale Spear is the tag team fodder that's already come up a few times as well, so it's quite hard to have anything more to say about it, so feel free to keep going on with this wheel shtick you've got happening.
It's a really good idea.
Bucky the Robot.
Bucky the Wobot.
It lost to Wapid and Twaction. And then I can't really replace the R in Voltwa. Doesn't really work.
Voltwa.
Voltawa.
Voltawa.
Just can't be done.
It's impossible.
I can't remember what your opinions on Bucky were. I feel like they were not glowing.
I don't know what you mean. This is exactly the kind of robot that I love. You know, big gimmick on wheels. What more could you want? I'm not a fan of Bucky the Robot.
I mean, it seems quite sensible in relation to some of the things that Tom Lloyd produced after it. Many of which I've just realised you won't remember because they largely competed in China. But he had Jasper for the season of BattleBots that didn't happen, or that hasn't happened, should I say?
Now, when you say that, do you mean the one that actually hasn't happened, or the one that we're pretending hasn't happened?
That's a very good point.
Because I don't know.
I think Bucky is the most competitively viable of the Tom Lloyd robots so far.
Wow.
Because it has a wedge, and a good one. Jasper kind of had a wedge. Both versions of Griffin did, but they didn't really seem to like driving very much, and were definitely art bots more than sort of competitive, useful things. I imagine there was good power in the weapon, but they were never really able to show that. Then there was Lieutenant Bam, which I don't know what it was, but I just know I loved it, which kind of careened around sort of hitting things and didn't die, and that, I believe, got it a couple of wins.
Nice.
None of that was relevant to what we're doing, but I enjoyed talking about it.
I'm glad. I'm glad that you got that out of your system. I got nothing. It's lost twice.
Should we move?
Sorry.
I mean, should we go on to a robot where we at least have some slight versioning to do? Will that make you feel better?
Sure.
Captain Shredderator. Now, this is a tricky one in terms of versioning, because in 2018, they largely ran the angled-sided shell, but they did also run the old kind of spiky shell. So I don't know if we just treat the two shells as kind of configurations.
I mean, it does sort of imply that the internals aren't that much different. Like, if the two shells are compatible with each other, that feels like the main robot bit of the robot is not massively changed. But then I have also sort of stipulated that like large external changes should be considered a different type of robot or a different robot. So I don't know. Shell spinners, man, they always throw spanners in the works.
I think we could just use the get out of, in 2018, they used both shells to set it to configuration and not worry about it.
Sold.
Big fan of the easy life, aren't you?
Path of least resistance is the path that I like to walk.
Shredderator is really interesting to me because it's one of a very select band of robots that's competed throughout the reboot of BattleBots. And yet you look at its record and it's entirely underwhelming, if not a little bit saddening.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely one of those robots, like you said, is there a lot. Like, it's such a staple of BattleBots. It'd be so weird if it wasn't there. And yet it's not an overly competitive robot. It stands out in my memory and you think, oh, Shredderator must be amazing. And it isn't.
I mean, Frisbee, I assume, was quite successful.
I don't know.
I've heard enough about it, and I know that they have, if not won tournaments, at least won BattleBots awards back in the old days. And they came over to compete in England for Robot Wars Extreme Warriors, although that doesn't necessarily make them among the most able competitors, it just makes them among the most available competitors, I suppose. It's hard to know without dealing into a lot of history that I can't be bothered with. This is where we need someone that knows something about BattleBots, which is not us.
But Ratunkti is all about modern robots, so we can't consider the ancient history that was old Robot Wars.
So we get to be revisionists about the Revolutionist.
Exactly.
Perfect, I'll take that. It is technically the most successful of these three robots, and as the spinner is always going to be included in the conversation, it's going to be the robot that dictates the way the other robots around it behave. But that does also mean it's going to get ganged up on. As best these other two robots can gang up on anything.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, by the way, slanty shell for this one.
If we go with the non-slanty shell, we get to play a game of how many teeth will it lose, though.
That is a fun game.
We could even do a die roll for it.
I mean, how many does it even seem to have? It looks like it's got 12 teeth, so we'd need a normal die.
Yeah, I can do that.
No, I maintain slanty shell is the one because they're going up against a wedge that they're going to want big impacts against rather than kind of skimmy impacts that allow the opponent to control it.
Can I not tempt you with rolling both the 6-sided and the 7-sided dice at the same time then?
To what end?
To decide how many teeth it loses.
But that'd be out of 13, or are we counting the whole shell as the final tooth?
I mean, maybe if you get 13, it means it lost nothing.
Oh, that's a good point.
There we go. We've got a 0.
I mean, you're welcome to do it, but it will mean nothing.
Right.
Go on, have your fun.
We can go with this. Well, no, because we've got to decide. And if you want to go with if you insist on the slanty shell, then we can't play that game because those 4 teeth aren't coming off.
The problem is, I feel like as soon as you start adding extra die rolls, this very serious system of ours just becomes a mockery of itself. This is about more than just our whim. It's about our whim mediated very slightly by rolling a die.
Right, go on then. You have your slanty shell, Mr. Scrooge.
Roll anyway. I want to know what the answer would have been.
Well, no, because that's not the point. You can't have both. You can't have it both ways.
I will have my cake and eat it.
As if that's an unreasonable thing to do. Have cake and eat it. Of course you'd want to eat
I mean, it'd be weird not to.
Well, exactly. That would be weird. Fine. I'll let you have your cake and eat it too.
Are we eating someone else's cake? Are we allowing cake to go uneaten? There are more questions than answers.
I mean, both are crimes in their own right. Right, I'm going to roll then. So if it's 13, it means it lost nothing. Everything else is the number.
I predict an 8.
You are exactly right. Oh, man. No one's going to believe it. Genuinely, an 8. The blue 7-sided one got a 6, and the normal dice got a 2.
Best thing is, I nearly went 7, and then realised that we weren't doing the roll where that's actually the most likely.
Ah, dear. He gets 2 Darren Brown moments you've just got there.
It is. Or you're just pandering to me.
I'm genuinely, it's an 8.
You're trying to build me up to think I've got psychic powers.
I mean, you can believe that if you want.
For some kind of horrible reveal where it all goes wrong for me.
Oh, dear.
Right, who are we discounting? I know who I'm discounting, but I want to hear you say it first.
Bale Spear.
Yeah. Bale Spear is not coming out of this with the correct number of wheels, regardless of which wheels they are. I think they would go with their metally front wheels because presumably they think that's better. I think they're coming off regardless. I also don't know if they'd go for fist or spike, and I don't think it matters. They might go spike for the chance of puncturing some polycarb on the top of Shredderator, but it's not going to make a large difference either way, is it?
No. And those losses as well are pretty conclusive if you ask me.
I'm going to say something very bold with which you're going to agree wholeheartedly.
That's a bold statement in itself.
This is not a 6-1 situation.
I do agree, and I'm annoyed that I have to agree with that. Ah.
I don't think Shredderator's a robot that I could ever give a 6-1 to, because there is too much potential for it to kill itself.
You're absolutely right.
I'm not even convinced it's a 5-2. I feel like that's what we're going to go with.
I feel like I'm actually quite middle of the road. I know that I didn't say much about Bucky, but like it's a wedge, which is like Shredderator's worst nightmare, I would have thought. So
the only thing that worries me is that it's a wedge that we haven't seen tested by a spinner.
There are also a lot of bite points, I suppose, aren't there?
Yeah, it's made of lots of smaller bits. It is quite bite pointy. So I think being hit on that wedge is going to damage the wedge. But it gives a sort of layer of insulation for all of the other stuff, which Shredderator doesn't have when it delivers those hits.
Should we go with our first instinct there then, a 5-2? Or 2-5?
I mean, technically my instinct was that it shouldn't be that, but as I say, I think it's what we're going to end up going with. I think it's the thing we can best justify, so do it.
Okay.
2-5. 1 and 2 for Bucky. 3, 4, 5, 6 for Shredderator. 7 also for Shredderator.
7
I know which one we're rolling.
7 is a judge's decision, and we have to have this whole conversation again.
Don't even joke.
It's a 3.
Oh no, so that decision mattered. That's horrible. No, I'm okay with that result. Shredderator is a powerful spinner. It is more than capable of doing enough damage to win a fight. It just doesn't do so well when those fights become attrition. And I am more than happy to believe that they got around the back of Bucky, took a wheel, and that is all that would take.
I'm not sure they had to get around the back. I don't recall Shredderator being quite that mobile. I think
Shredderator is quite quick. It's just a difficult thing to control.
I feel like my headcanon is that it hits the wedge and the wedge just sort of gets shredded up a little bit, and then Bucky's limping for some more of the fight.
I can't believe I'd never made this link before. But Bucky is Dwayne Nibley.
Yes.
An inferior Dwayne Nibley.
I can't believe you'd never made that connection before.
I mean, maybe I have in the other direction.
Maybe.
I've probably gone, Dwayne Nibley is a Beetleweight Bucky. I've probably done that, but I've not done the inverse.
Well, you've just voted against Dwayne Nibley. How does it feel?
Not good. Not good at all. What's
done is done. You must live with your decisions for the rest of your life.
If that had been in the Robot Wars arena, I would probably have argued more for Bucky just on the basis of the pit and the house robots. And actually on the basis of all of the hazards there, because all of them be very bad use for Shredderator.
Yeah. But it wasn't. So
I didn't.
So it doesn't matter.
Right, last one, and you have an intro debt that you need to pay up on. Before I come around and break your kneecaps. I've threatened you with long-distance violence in, like, the last 2 or 3 episodes now.
Have you been, like, playing lots of video games recently? Is that what's going on here?
I have, but it's been Game Dev Tycoon. So
that's the most violent of games.
I mean, when my main graphics guy decides he needs a holiday just before I get to that part of a AAA game, I feel quite violent.
Look, you've got to give software developers holidays, okay?
No, they are mindless drones, and they will bend to my will.
Brutal. Right, we have Worm versus Donald Thump versus Huge.
That made me genuinely uncomfortable to the point of removing my headphones. There was a certain resonance there that I could not handle.
Sorry to all the listeners for that one. Oh man, I feel a bit lightheaded now.
I just love that you live somewhere where you can do that, because when I did an episode of Roasting Robots, Mike asked me to do that, and I just couldn't because it was going to disturb people.
I mean, I probably have disturbed people, but no one's ever complained to me about this noise, so...
They all just silently hate you.
Probably, yeah. I mean, that is the British way, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I've heard my neighbours are being annoyed about it and never said anything to them, so...
All evens out in the end.
Exactly. It's all fine.
Worm's a fun one to start on. A robot which went 0-3 in Series 9, which should not have been possible.
And yet it did it somehow anyway.
It did it because Frostbite had to retire, because Frostbite was Frostbite.
Poor Frostbite.
That's literally the only interesting thing about it.
I feel like I like the idea of Worm. I feel like you like the idea of it as well.
I had high hopes for it as the kind of sewer snake style wedge lifter that seemed as though it would deal really well with horizontals. And then it started getting stuck on its own wedge, and then that wedge got hit and just kind of flew off. And I realised that I had once again been overly optimistic.
Shame.
Great concept, questionable execution.
Yeah. It does look cool though. Again, I do kind of like the exposed frame aesthetic. Like the welded pipe type stuff. Oh. Ryan zoomed in for me and zoomed out again.
I was just looking at it to see if this was just a really badly lit photograph or if they just painted it in a way that does not show up well on camera.
I mean, I suspect painting it black doesn't help with the camera.
That Vanta Black Beetle of ours is never going to happen because of this.
That would be funny.
It's a lovely idea, but let's face it, we're going to be discounting it from this fight, aren't we?
I would imagine so. Yeah. Donald Thump. Donald Thump would be funny if we weren't in 2020. So can we move on?
It was funny at the time. And I like the way they've moved the theme forward since, going for historical figures rather than current events.
Yeah.
Definitely a good plan.
Wise move.
It may or may not spin up in this fight. And if it does, it probably won't continue spinning. But it may or may not spin up in this fight.
You know what will spin up, though?
Matilda, if she's in.
You don't let me have any fun. That was going to be a great segue into Huge, and you were just like...
I had an instinctive need to block whatever you were doing. And I know it's not helpful, and I know it's not kind, but I couldn't help it. Huge is a magnificent robot, even though we're only looking at its 2018 version.
Oh, man, yeah, we can't even... Oh, that's so upsetting. Did I like Huge in 2018? I can't remember.
Oh, you must. You complained about the lack of tyres.
Oh, yes.
But you, as a sane human being, were very impressed with the concept and execution of Huge.
Well, I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that I was that forward-looking. But, you know, it's also a very unconventional design, and I feel like I don't always look favourably on unconventional designs. Anyway, I like huge now, and that's the important thing. We're recording this now, not in 2018 or 19 or whatever, whenever. So we're going to go with it. I like huge.
All of its wins were by judges' decision, which is a strange trait for a spinner, but one that makes me like it more for some reason.
Well, despite the fact that the judging criteria is heavily favoured towards spinners.
Yeah, which, again, spinners shouldn't be going to the judges, but they did it in an entertaining way. They gave us 3 really... And their opponents obviously contributed to the slot by being 3 very durable machines. They gave us 3 great 3-minute matches where the weapon kept working the whole time.
Yeah.
And they were all comprehensive wins.
Well,
just as the losses were also quite comprehensive.
They weren't that comprehensive at wins if it went to the judges.
Oh, yeah, but they were all clear decisions. So, free shipping was in pieces. Chomp's hammer had been pretty much completely removed. Sub-Zero was also there.
Sub-Zero was present in the fight.
Yeah, there was no tension as they went to the judges.
Yeah.
The only issue it had was the being broken in 2 snafu. I think this is an easy one to end on. I think I know exactly what we're doing. There's no versioning or anything like that. It's an absolute joy. Right,
should we get it over with? Should we just do it?
Yep. So what are you doing?
Sorry, Worm, and 7 and 0 for huge.
I'd love to, but I think we'll mediate that back to a 6 and 1 if it's okay with you.
If Donald Thump wins this, I shall be so upset.
We have to reflect the unpredictable nature of robot combat.
Can we discount Donald Thump? Because I'd rather Worm won.
You have to convince me that Worm can win this fight. What is its route to victory? If you can persuade me, then I'll allow it.
This puts us in the Robot Wars arena. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
And huge, with its lack of traction and lack of control, falls in the pit.
But Worm still then has to beat Donald Thump. Now, you could argue that Donald Thump may well go in without its weapon working, but we have to assume the best we've seen it perform. And even if the weapon was not working, I would trust Donald Thump to outlast Worm, because Worm will eventually beat itself on its own scoop.
I know. That's why I'm really struggling here. I was sort of thinking, could I make the argument that the Worm manages to push Donald Thump into the house robots a few times, maybe Matilda gets involved, although I guess it wouldn't even be there because of the spinners.
Worm lost to Frostbite, Sam.
Yeah, I can't
Frostbite.
I can't justify it. I'm defeated, and it's upsetting. Right, I'm going to roll this.
I'm with you in being very nervous about this. It's 1 for Donald Thump, it's everything else for huge, and I have a terrible feeling.
Got a bad feeling about this. Oh, thank God, it's a 5.
And everything is right with the world.
Oh. What a relief that is.
We've done it. We've made it through the first round.
That's the first round. Oh, my goodness me.
So, from here, it's 1v1s all the way. I think the thing that's really slowed this round down is the fact that the 3-ways require this whole extra level of discussion.
Yeah.
So we're now down to 64 robots.
What a relief that is.
It's taken, 64 fights to get here, I suppose it would have, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Wait, what? Hang on, what?
What?
We've done 32, which means it's not a 64-team bracket, it's a 32-team bracket. Which means that I've got... Hang on, what?
What have we not... Oh, no. What have we done? What have we not done?
So I've got 32 fights in the next round, which makes it a round of 64. Oh, no, sorry, I numbered them separately. That's what I did. We had 32 1v1s, 32 melees. That's a 64-team bracket. Everything I've done makes sense. It's all good.
Relief.
So we've got 32 fights in the next round, then 16 fights, which is how many total so far?
I don't know, 48?
Actually, we should have 63 fights left, shouldn't we? That's how that works.
Why 60?
Because we're halving every time and adding it. This amazingly loops back to what you said earlier. We're adding a half every time. Which means we never quite reach the whole.
We never quite get there.
How serendipitous.
Wonderful. Well, we can do it. I feel like that's a big hurdle that's been overcome in the path to completing Retunkti.
We are over halfway in terms of the amount of discussion that needs to happen. But as we get further in, there are going to be some very difficult ones to call. So just looking ahead, I don't have all of the winners from this set of rounds entered in the spreadsheet yet. But looking ahead to some of the sort of fights we can look forward to having to discuss, we have, for example, Concussion Lockjaw, which is really tough. Cherub versus Beta, that should be fun. This is just a random look through what we have. Free Shipping versus Bombshell.
Okay.
Storm 2 versus Sabretooth.
Ooh.
PP3D versus Nuts 2.
That'd be a laugh.
Supernova Eruption. We've got some really interesting matchups coming up.
Some cracking fights.
Indeed. Also some smashing fights.
Well, stay tuned.
It could be over quite quickly at the rate we're currently working.
It could be.
That is not a promise. It's not a promise.
No. Retuncti will continue to be as unpredictable as ever.
Got an outro?
You can find the show notes for this episode at spinnerproof.com/episodes/74. And there you can find links to all the stuff we've been talking about today. You can also find a link to our Twitter at Spinnerproof, where you can tweet to us your favourite album.